There, have you ever wondered what actually drives a man crazy in the best possible way? Not just what turns him on physically, but what disarms his mind, draws him in emotionally, and makes him look at you like you're the only woman in the world. We tend to think attraction is about the right outfit, the perfect smile, or saying all the right things. But the truth is, some of the most powerful turn-ons for a man have nothing to do with what he sees and everything to do with what he feels when he's around you. Because the mind is where real attraction begins. They're not the body, not the bedroom, the mind there. And when you touch a man there, when you understand the supple triggers that steer his deepest desires, you don't just catch his attention, you live in it. So today, I want to give you something powerful. 6 psychological turn-ons that don't just attract a man, they melt him. They make him obsessed in the healthiest, most intimate way. Let's dive in. There's something quietly intoxicating about a woman who leads with warmth, but not in the way the world expects. Not the type of warmth that's always accessible, always agreeable, always turned on for everyone. No, what truly melts a man's mind is unpredictable warmth. The kind that makes him feel like he's been granted a window into something special, something private, that's something not everyone gets to see. See, we're often taught that being likable means being endlessly available, accommodating, and agreeable. There. But what we forget is that when warmth is given freely to everyone, it starts to lose its value. It becomes background noise and pleasant but forgettable. What draws a man in at the deepest psychological level isn't how warm you are to everyone. It's how selectively that warmth is offered, how it feels earned. Realize that how it feels personal when it's finally his to receive. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who didn't smile right away? Realize that who held your gaze just a beat longer before showing you the softer side of them. And when that moment finally came, when they laughed or gave you a compliment or let down their guard, it hit you like a drug. That's what we're talking about here. That quiet unpredictability is what turns your warmth into something he craves. Realize that they're not because you're withholding it manipulatively, but because you value it yourself. You don't just hand it out. You let someone step into it when they've shown they're worth the intimacy of it. For a man, this creates a powerful psychological response. It activates his curiosity, his focus sharpens. Realize that he starts thinking, what did I do to get that smile, that look, that kindness? He starts investing emotionally, not because you demanded it, but because you made him want it, because your warmth isn't constant, it's layered, nuanced, and honest. And the beautiful part, it doesn't require game playing. You don't have to pretend. You just have to become more intentional about how and when you let people into your softer spaces. Not everyone needs access to your light. When you reserve it for people who truly see you, respect you, and value, it becomes magnetic. That's what unpredictable warmth does. A man feels chosen, and not chosen out of loneliness, but chosen out of discernment. That he feels like he's experiencing something not everyone gets, something deeply feminine, deeply real. And once he feels that he can't help but want more, he'll lean in. He'll pay closer attention. He'll treat your warmth like a treasure because you've shown him that it's not automatic. It's earned. And in a world full of people trying to be liked, realize that they're admired, honored. You'll be unforgettable, not because you gave him all of you, but because you gave him just enough to feel how sacred the rest must be. That's how you melt a man's mind, one expected moment at a time. There's a specific kind of confidence that doesn't just attract a man. It stays with him. It lingers in his mind long after the conversation ends. And it's not the loud kind. It's not the brash kind. It's the quiet kind, the controlled kind. A woman who owns the room without needing it to revolve around her, who isn't performing for attention. She simply exists in full ownership of her space, that kind of woman. She turns heads without even trying. Controlled confidence isn't about arrogance. It's not about having all the answers or pretending you're above being hurt. It's about self-assurance that doesn't need validation to breathe. A deep, centered presence that says, I know who I am, I know what I bring, and I'm not here to prove it to anyone. When a man meets a woman like that, something primal kicks in. It's not just admiration. It's intrigue. He starts asking himself questions. What's her story? What has she been through to carry herself like that? Why does she seem so unbothered by the people approve of her or not? That's the thing about controlled confidence. They need to shout to be heard. It doesn't need a spotlight. In fact, it becomes the spotlight, because in a world where everyone is scrambling to be seen, there's nothing more captivating than a woman who's already seeing herself clearly. And make no mistake, men notice this. They notice the woman who isn't glued to her phone because she's comfortable sitting with herself. They notice the woman who doesn't need to fill the silence with constant chatter. They notice how she speaks with intention, how she carries herself with elegance, how she's completely at home in her own body. She's not fishing for compliments there. She's not measuring her worth based on how many people are looking at her. And ironically, that's what makes everyone look. That's what makes him look there. And here's where it gets even more powerful. Controlled confidence doesn't intimidate the right man. It activates him. It inspires him to rise, to match you. Because he knows he can't just slide by with charm or effort alone. He has to show up fully, presently, consistently. You're not a prize to be won. You're a standard to live up to. They realize that then that kind of energy, it doesn't just attract men, it attracts grown men, the kind who are ready for a real connection. So if you want to melt a man's mind, not just his heart, stop trying to be impressive. Stop trying to be what you think he wants. Instead, they realize that they're become so deeply connected to who you are that you don't flinch when someone doesn't get it, because that level of poise, that level of calm certainty, that's what makes a man stop mid-sentence, mid-thought, mid-life and say, who is she? And once he asks that question, he'll want to keep discovering the answer, because controlled confidence isn't just attractive, it's unforgettable. There's a moment that happens early in attraction and it's electric. It's when a man meets a woman who doesn't just smile and nod, she sparks with him. She engages, she teases, she pushes back with a grin that says, I like you, but I'm not an easy win. And that right there flips a switch in his mim-up, wakes him up, because deep down, every man wants to be challenged, not with hostility, not with drama, but with playfulness. He doesn't want to be coddled or endlessly agreed with. He wants to feel something, to feel like he's interacting with someone real, someone present, someone alive. And that's what a playful challenge does. It lights a fire in the space between you. Think about it. Anyone can compliment a man. Anyone can laugh at his jokes or tell him he's great. But when you tease him just enough to make him lean in, when you playfully question his confidence, or roll your eyes at his over-the-top story with a raised eyebrow and a smirk, you're not shutting him down. You're drawing him in. You're making it fun. You're turning the interaction into a dance instead of a one-man show. And that's irresistible. A playful challenge says, I'm not here to audition. I'm here to connect. There. But you've got to show me something real. It sends the message that you're not desperate for attention. And more importantly, that you're actually enjoying the moment. Because when you're willing to engage in that flirty back and forth, it tells him you're confident in your skin. You're not intimidated. You're not overthinking. Realize there, you're present, and playful presence is magnetic. Here's the nuance, though. A play challenge is rooted in warmth, not coldness. It's not sarcasm for the sake of superiority. It's not testing him because you're afraid to be vulnerable. It's a little bit of mischief wrapped in genuine curiosity. You might playfully doubt his cooking skills, but then ask about his favorite dish. You might challenge his playlist, then lean in closer to hear what he plays next. It's give and take, push and pull, flirt and reveal. This is where chemistry is born, not just in what's said, but in how it's said, the sparkle in your eyes, the slight pause before you deliver a teasing comment, the subtle ways you keep him guessing, not because you're playing games, but because you're playing. And play is where emotional safety and sexual attraction collide. And here's what really melts a man's mind: when you're not afraid to challenge him, but you're also not afraid to appreciate him once he rises to meet you. You flirt, you tease, and then when he shows up, you soften, you let him in. That contrast, it creates tension, excitement, and emotional intimacy all at once. So be bold enough to challenge, be brave enough to play. Because the woman who flirts with intelligence, curiosity, and warmth, she's not just attractive, she's unforgettable. There's something undeniably attractive about a woman who knows exactly what she wants and isn't afraid to hold out for it, not in a demanding way, not in an entitled way, but in a quietly powerful way that says, I don't need to prove myself and I don't need to convince you to stay. That's what unapologetic standards are all about. Most people think that to attract love, you need to be easygoing, flexible, agreeable. And yes, being kind, open-hearted, and emotionally intelligent is essential. But here's the truth. Kindness without boundaries leads to resentment. And emotional depth without standards leads to heartbreak. They realize that what truly melts a mind is meeting a woman who doesn't just have values. She lives by them. They're a woman who doesn't lower the bar just because trying or showing potential. A woman who can smile, flirt, and enjoy the moment there while still holding herself to a higher level of self-respect. It's the woman who can say, I like you, but I won't shrink to keep you. When a man encounters a woman like this, his attraction isn't just physical, it's psychological, it's emotional. He feels challenged, but not in a combative way. He feels called forward. There, he knows she's not here to be impressed by words. She's watching his consistency, his actions, his integrity. And here's the thing about men who are emotionally ready, they want this. They're deep down, they crave a woman who makes them rise, who doesn't hand out her time and energy just because someone showed up, but because someone showed effort. It's not about being harsh. It's about being clear about your value, your expectations, clear about what you will not tolerate in your life. And the most magnetic part there, she doesn't feel the need to explain or justify those standards. She's not waiting for someone to validate her boundaries. She honors them because they honor her there. And that kind of self-assuredness doesn't just attract, it captivates. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to play games. You just have to live like a woman who believes she's worth the love she desires. That belief shows up in your choices, your silence, your exits. It shows up in the way you walk away when it doesn't meet your worth, not because you're cold, but because you're clear. And clarity is sexy. It's powerful. It tells a man, I want a connection, but not at the cost of myself. So if you've ever been afraid that your standards are too high, hear this, the right man won't see them as obstacles. He'll see them as a map to the best parts of you. And when you live with unapologetic standards, you stop chasing validation. You become the woman a man strives to meet. In a world where attention is fragmented, conversations are rushed, and everyone is halfway somewhere else, there is one quality so rare, so powerful, it can melt a man's mind without you saying a single word: deep presence. We underestimate how sexy presence really is. But a woman who's fully here, with her eyes, her body, her tone, her stillness, that kind of woman is unforgettable. Not because she's loud, not because she dominates the room, but because when she's with you, she's actually with you. There, she listens like you matter. She responds like she's not rehearsing in her head. She's not waiting for her turn to speak. She's not checking her phone. She's not distracted by what the world might think, because in that moment, you are her world. And to a man, that is incredibly rare. Most men are used to being half heard. Women nod while texting, laugh politely while scanning the room, or they rush into problem-solving mode when he shares something vulnerable, unknowingly skipping right past the part where he just wants to be seen. But a woman who holds space, who breathes, pauses, absorbs, makes him feel like he's the only man in the world. They're not because she says it, but because he feels it. He feels her energy leaning in, not to impress, not to manipulate, but just to connect. And that connection doesn't just soothe him. It captivates him. You see, when you give a man deep presence, you bypass performance. He doesn't feel like he has to entertain you, impress you, or say all the right things. He feels safe to be himself. Unguarded, unedited, undistracted. And that space, that's where chemistry deepens. That's where attraction roots itself in something real. Because in that moment, you're no longer a type. You're no longer a fantasy. You become an experience. Think about it. How often do you meet someone who actually looks into your eyes and stays there? Someone who's not trying to control the conversation or posture or win, but who's just present. It's disarming. It's vulnerable. And yes, it's intensely attractive. Presence is not passive, it's powerful. It requires courage to stop performing, to put down your social mask, to stop worrying about the next thing you'll say and just feel the moment unfolding between you. And here's the secreting: when you're deeply present, you give a man permission to do the same. Realize there, you invite his walls down, his ego softens, his heart opens. Because if you're there, truly there, he doesn't have to be anything but himself. And in a world where everyone's trying to be more, he'll crave the woman who simply is. So don't underestimate your stillness. Don't underestimate your energy. Because a woman who can hold a moment can hold him in ways no one else ever has. There is nothing sexier to a man who's truly ready than a woman who is emotionally mature. They're not because she never gets upset, not because she's always calm and put together, but because when she does feel something big, she knows how to handle it with grace. She knows how to communicate without blame, how to hold herself without collapsing, and how to express without exploding. That kind of woman, she's rare. She's magnetic there, and she melts a man's mind, not with coast, but with clarity. Here's what most people don't understand: attraction can come from mystery, looks, laughter, chemistry, but devotion. That only grows in the presence of emotional maturity, because a man may chase beauty that he stays for peace. He stays for the woman who makes his soul feel safe, not because she never challenges him, but because when things get messy, she doesn't throw emotional grenades. She pauses, she breathes, she chooses how she shows up instead of reacting on autopilot. That doesn't mean she's passive. Far from it. An emotionally mature woman speaks her truth directly, confidently, with lies that there, and with kindness. She doesn't play games. She doesn't pout, punish, or test his love. If something bothers her, she brings it forward with ownership. If he hurts her, she tells him what she felt, not just what he did. That kind of communication, it's healing, it's hot, it hits different because it allows connection to deepen, even in conflict. It happens nexting, and here's what: when a man experiences a woman like this, it disarms him, because most men had moments in relationships where they've been afraid of their partner's reactions, afraid of saying the wrong thing, afraid that one mistake will lead to days of distance or silent resentment. But when he meets a woman who handles conflict without turning it into warg, who listens instead of attacking, who can cry and be calm, he relaxes, he shows up. There he becomes more emotionally available, more communicative, more present. Why? Because her emotional maturity invites his. She becomes the woman he can be honest with, the woman he doesn't have to lie to or tiptoe around, the woman he can build with, not just flirt with. That doesn't mean she accepts bad behavior. On the contrary, she has boundaries, strong ones, but she communicates those boundaries from a place of self-worth, not emotional weaponry. She's not asking a man to fix her emotions. She's asking him to understand them. And that shift changes everything. So if you want to melt a man's mind, not through drama or dominance, but through depth, this is it. Be the woman who isn't scared of her own feelings. Be the woman who knows how to hold space for herself and for him. Be the woman who brings peace, not because life is easy, but because she's strong enough to stay soft in it. Realize that, because emotional maturity, that's not just attractive, it's irresistible. And there you have it, the 6 psychological turn-ons that don't just attract a man's body, they captivate his mind. When you master unpredictable warmth, controlled confidence, playful challenge, unapologetic standards, deep presence, and emotional maturity, you become utterly unforgettable. If this resonated with you, do me a favor, like this video if you learned something new, comment below which turn-on are you most excited to try. Subscribe and hit the bell for more high-value insights on connection, attraction, and becoming the woman no man can forget. See you next time, where we turn attraction into deep, lasting connection